we lost a very elderly, very unwell Supreme Court Justice, RBG, as I think she quite likes to be called. And it's kind of quite momentous in a strange way. It affected me, and I'm, not even American, but I was really quite sad. It's really important to mark her passing and what an incredible person she was in terms of being a role model to so many young people. Her and Sandra Day O'Connor kind of blazed all kinds of trails. And with that, we'll just get cracking. So let's wheel on our first person of note. Oh, wait, no, Mary. It's Mary's birthday. Happy birthday, Mary. This is a big one, 60. Can everybody go off mute just to say happy birthday from all over the place?
Happy birthday, Mary.
Happy
Birthday, Mary, 60.
Happy birthday, Mary.
Lepsi Kanaros and Anam.
Happy birthday, Mary.
Happy birthday, Mary.
Danke.
Happy birthday.
Bitteschön.
So, Mary.
Yes.
You do know technically you're middle-aged still.
This number has been kind of horrifying me.
I know that for a fact that for census reasons, it might not be in America, but definitely in England, you are middle-aged until you're 65, and then you're officially older. So you're 4 or 5 years ahead of me, so don't think you're out there all by yourself. I'm catching up.
I was telling one of my sisters that, who I had lunch with today, and I said, the good thing is many of the people in this chat are much younger than I am, but I said the actor himself, the guest of honor, he's not too far from my age.
I'm in your generation. We could have been at college and school together. That's how close we are.
Technically, I'm still 59 because I was born at about 11:10 at night. I was the first child in my family, so my mother was in labor for 26 hours, she told me.
Oh, my goodness, what a hard one.
Well, remember, this was 1960, so they didn't maybe have all the same technology.
They didn't have the stuff.
He was in labor from 9 p.m. last night to 11 o'clock tonight.
When did you first realize this morning it was your birthday?
I stayed up till midnight last night because I wanted to greet my 60th birthday. It just gave me such a weird feeling.
I think it's an accomplishment. Yeah.
This morning, I never do this, even though I work from home most days, but I still am up always about 7 a.m. or earlier. Today at about 7, I thought, I don't need to get right out of bed. I fell back asleep till about 9. And then I woke up at about 9, and a few minutes later, there was a tapping on the door, and I go there, and it was a maintenance person who was here to install something for the dishwasher.
Right.
But as I was opening the door, though, I was going to apologize for my disheveled state because I said it's my birthday, I overslept. And there were all kinds of decorations, including those balloons behind me by the door and stickers on the door and a big poster. My sister Jane, who has the key to the building, had snuck in early in the morning and decorated the whole door.
What a beautiful gesture. What a good sister you've got.
I thought so too. Cool. And I never suspected it at all. It was really nice. And what a way to discover it. She was waiting all morning for me to text her saying what a surprise. And I was sleeping. She knows I'm up earlier than that usually.
I'm sure the technician would have been like, I completely understand.
Well, and I told him that and he said he never would have guessed it was my birthday. And of course he would have. The door was like I don't know what you would call it, like a circus, Yeah.
Oh.
My youngest brother turned 50 yesterday, so we're like bookends in our family. So for one day, which was yesterday, all my brothers and sisters and I were in our 50s. Just one day, and then I had to go and spoil it today. Not my choice.
What are you going to do for your party? What's the plan?
We're going to one of the brothers' houses, and in fact, one of my nieces has a birthday tomorrow, so it's a big week for our family.
It's a double birthday at least. It'll be great fun. That's going to be terrific. And then is it going to be the first time you've all got together for a while?
No, many of us were together just last Saturday night, sitting around one of my other brother's fire pit. We get together fairly often.
It's actually really important if you can. I mean, it is. Especially outside. It's getting chilly now. Whereabouts are you again?
Well, I'm near Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We're in suburbs of Milwaukee. It's like a birthday gift to me. This week we're back in the 70s, and it's almost like summer has returned for a little bit because for a couple of days we were cold, and again, of course, next week comes a little more reality, but still 50s and 60s. So it's not terrible.
Yeah, I've got tomatoes out there that the squirrels decided not to eat. They ate everything else. And they left these guys. They ate them green. And then they just sat in the middle of the drive cheekily laughing at us while they were leaving the green tomatoes in the middle of the drive. So they left a whole bunch, my favorite kind actually, called Amish something.
Oh, I never heard of those.
They kind of look like heirloom tomatoes. They have that look, they're big, absolutely delightful. And I'm just hoping I can get to a red one before it frosts up, because I know we won't get there. And we've also got a watermelon out there that's about that big, but I think they're individual watermelons. And we're leaving that out there for as long as possible too. So it's a straggler.
Well, now you're much closer to the ocean, so of course you stay warmer at night than we do here. Although we've got Lake Michigan. Maybe you've got longer hope for that stuff. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I don't know
either.
It's not realistic. How is your family, by the way?
Well, we're doing fine mostly. You know, we lost I shouldn't say but we discussed this a little bit in April. We lost our parents. My father 4 years ago and my mother 14 years ago. We were close to them, and it's like we're constantly, not in mourning, but constantly bringing them up in a good way, constantly sharing pictures. Maybe someone finally scanned another old photo. So we're pretty close. Overall, we're doing pretty well, I think.
Yeah. Were you aware of Ruth Ginsburg?
Yes, but I have to admit, this sounds very bad to say, but I'm not highly into politics. I don't follow those things as closely as some people do. So even though I knew of her, and obviously I love reading history, both recent and longer ago, I'm afraid it kind of took me surprise when she died, and I found out some of the things that she had done. I kind of don't like admitting that, but things I read or listened to on the radio, I love my late night talk shows.
I think that's totally fair enough not to be up to speed in all that. In fact, right now, I'm kind of not up to speed in politics myself because it's just so monotonous. It's always the same every single day.
Yeah.
But Ruth Ginsburg, she was quite a trailblazer, but really, really quiet. You know, one of the things that interests me about her, which was her kind of famed, cherished friendship with Antonin Scalia, who was the as far right wing as you can get, constitutionalist and originalist, or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And I thought that was really sweet. The two people who should be most hating each other were best friends on the court. They went to the opera together, and they went to dinners together, and then they went to their separate corners and duked it out.
That's kind of like my family. Among my siblings, we have different political opinions.
Yeah.
In fact, the sister who did all this decoration for me, she and I do not see eye to eye on all things politics. Doesn't really affect us very much.
Please tell us what the secret of that is, because it's ripping families apart all over the States.
We maybe know when to stop, for one thing, because we just know that we're not. One of my peeves, to backtrack a little bit about Facebook, for example, is I don't feel anyone has ever been converted by someone else on Facebook telling them they're wrong, either in a nice way or an insulting way. It's not how I form my opinions. And I think we realize that even among each other, that we're not going to suddenly change what someone thinks.
So do you just chuckle and move on, or do you just change conversation or just make a teasy thing? I'll never convince you anyway to have a cookie.
It's all those ways. Sometimes they'll send me texts like memes or GIFs that they find online that they know are going to get to me. But it's still kind of a joke, you know, and I take it as such. And so
maybe then this horrible ripping apart of families has got more to do with love and not so much to do with argument. I'm only saying that because clearly you love each other.
Yep.
And obviously that has never been different. I mean, you may have had spats.
Yep.
But love will always trump kind of polarizing arguments at the end of the day, because you'll know when to. I mean, I know, you know, with my own wife, I know that there's a point beyond which I will not dare to go. I'm just not going to risk it.
I have a degree in economics, so to admit it, I am a little more conservative, because it's like economics sort of taught me that. Things I read by Milton Friedman taught me things that at least I took to heart. And not everybody has read that or is from that background. And plus, you know, now I can say it. I mean, being 60 years old, I've seen a whole lot of political arguments, and presidents or other politicians that people thought were terrible. They have their moment and then they go, or other ones come. Everybody gets turns. And
do you still take an interest in economics?
Yes, but I have to admit, I never really worked in it professionally. I worked more in education. I still am.
Well, I think that's a perfectly good reason to not be an economist, but it's a hobby, perhaps?
Yes.
I'm wondering if there's a sense of denial about what's going to happen to the economies. given the amount of debt every country is going into over COVID. And, and some of these businesses have had their guts metaphorically ripped out, especially restaurants, entertainment. Anyone who's service oriented has to be face to face with a lot of people. I don't know how they're going to get back to their feet, because there's nothing more stressful than running out of money. When you're an adult, when you're a kid, it's fine.
Yep. I don't know how my parents did it.
Yeah, and when you get to like 35, it can really tie you in knots, especially if you start having children or responsible relationships where you care for someone else enough to be financially intertwined.
When you mentioned being a kid in England, I had a kind of an odd question for you about that.
Of course.
It's not too odd. I was in England 3 times. The last time was a long time ago, though. It was about 20 years ago, and I was 2 times before that. Every time I go, because I'm a history fan, and because, of course, we're also interested in England, in America, so many cultural things are from there.
Yeah.
Well, when I'm there, much as I enjoy it, much memorable as the trips are, I always have sort of a mood of, it's not morbid, but it's like there's almost too much history. There are too many graves everywhere. I go into these big Victorian cemeteries. I spent days in Highgate. And then I think later, how could I do that? It's horror. It's creepy, And then I'm thinking, how do you, like I was right near Queen Elizabeth I in Westminster Abbey. Wasn't as popular like 20, 30 years ago. So I was all alone in that little alcove where her tomb is. And then I hear they found Richard III in a parking lot.
Apparently so.
How can you live with not just a couple of cemeteries here and there, but this kind of stuff everywhere all the time without having that sense of
I think
sadness?
Mary, it's a European thing, and I think that all across Europe this is the same case, whether it's in Germany or the Netherlands or France.
Yeah.
You have a morbid sense of humor. We have a dark sense of humor, and it bases, as you know, because you've seen any British TV show, they're always pretty they find dark things funny. And I suspect that there is a linkage there between those two things. But I never think of it in terms of, oh my goodness, I'm surrounded by death. Because if I did, I would go horribly, horribly crazy.
I know, because that's how I think of it. I want to see, for example, I go into Westminster Abbey just to see the beautiful church, but there's all the people everywhere in there, the bodies.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't divorce the two,
Well, that song in Monty Python's The Life of Brian? And if you haven't seen it, you've made a huge error in your life.
I never saw The Life of Brian. I've only seen The Holy Grail and a couple of others.
Oh, brother. Well, The Life of Brian, there's a song where where Brian is on the cross at the end. There's a thief who and another guy, it's the kind of pastiche of the life of Christ. But it actually isn't. They sing a song, and it's always look on the bright side of life. And that is the morbid sense of humor. And John Cleese, I think it's John Cleese at the door. Crucifixion, first on the left. Crucifixion, first on the left. And then Brian comes up and goes, John Cleese says, crucifixion? And Brian goes, no, actually, I'm just trying to get out. Oh, on the right then, that's fine. And he's like, only joking. Crucifixion. Yeah. I'm misquoting it horribly.
I should laugh more. You have to be there.
It is so funny. It is so funny. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. Anyway.
There's a cartoon that's going around online, or at least I saw it and I liked it, where this shows a guy waving from a cardboard box, and he says, I lost my house, I lost my job, I lost my money, but I didn't get COVID-19. So to me that's similar feelings.
That is absolutely insane. Absolutely. It's a morbid sense of humor.
Yep.
But it's salt of the earth. And Brits, and I think the same for most Europeans, don't take themselves very seriously. They don't take the country very seriously. Mary, happy 60th birthday. Open your arms to it. Open those arms and go, welcome 60. I made it.
Thank you.
Made it.
It is still kind of horrifying, but I thought, oh my gosh, if I could only be in the chat, because I listen just about every time, but I thought if I could be in the chat again on my 60th birthday, it would be very distracting, which it has.
Well, we're very honored that you are. And
thank you.
You have become a respected person. So take that to the bank. Anyone less than 60, yeah, take them on. Just
cares?
adults.
Thank you again.
You're welcome, Mary.
Thanks, Mary. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Next, we have an anniversary to celebrate.
We do.
We've got Terry and Ariel.
Hello.
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 We're on separate screens because he sometimes leaves early and I like to stay for the whole chat. So,
Because I still go to work in person.
yeah, you do.
Happy anniversary.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sid.
What number is it? Do you know?
14.
14.
14.
Today we just did cards, went out to dinner, and then we wanted to kind of celebrate with all our virtual friends in Sid chat. So this is
Oh, well, we're
So-
privileged to have you here.
So everyone, if you can, for us, considering we actually watched the episode, you were cordially invited before we came on. Do a little nog dance for us when you get a chance and you're able, and do it for Aaron,
You're right.
in honor of Aaron.
Everybody fell about laughing, of course, because it was just so silly. It was very Monty Python-esque. So you went to dinner,
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
obviously locally somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's this chain restaurant we hadn't tried, and they're actually headquartered back home in Orange County in California. So what the heck? And
That's
Terry
good.
wanted
Was it
to
good?
try it.
Was
Yeah.
it nice?
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Nice.
wasn't
It's
bad.
right outside, so
Actually, it was great.
great weather.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nice quiet.
Anyway,
That's-
and I was going to introduce it, then Terry can bring it up. We wanted to kind of roll in the little fun fact that, well, first of all, we did this right the second time around. This is number 2 in holding for the both of us.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for Star Trek, we probably wouldn't have gotten together in the first place.
Wow.
True.
I've heard that before. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing that a TV show can do that? Isn't that just wonderful?
Well, we actually met in a Star Trek fan club. We both lived in California.
Yeah.
Right.
So
In short, I'd come back from the East Coast after about, was it 10 years, including my medical school. I was actually out of medicine for a while and in the wreck of a divorce, and basically I was not in the best of shape in that part of my life. I moved back to Los Angeles, or moved back to Orange County, and I had already joined a Star Trek club back east to make friends.
Yeah.
I had joined a Star Trek club in my life, even though I've been a lifelong science fiction fan, because for me, joining a fan club was crossing that line, but I wanted to make friends. Anyway, I moved over to our club's chapter in Los Angeles, and there's Terry across the room. Wasn't even expecting it. Didn't even,
Wow.
wasn't expecting.
I wasn't either.
And how did you, because that was before, 14 years ago, internet was happening and Facebook and everything.
We actually
But
got together in 2001.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
who plucked up the courage to say, hey, let's write emails to each other?
Well, to backtrack, we met at a club meeting. Then a week or so later was the Halloween party, I think.
About 2 weeks-ish.
So, we went to the Halloween party separately, and he asked me to walk him out to his car, and that was our first kiss.
Whoa.
So that was kind of nice and romantic and caught a little bit off guard, but it was great.
And her costume was awesome.
A week later, we were talking online, and he wasn't asking me, and he wasn't asking me, and he wasn't asking me. I'm like, you know what? Enough of this. I said, so, do you want to go out? Like, okay, sure. I'm like, I am not waiting for this. I was like, I'm not gonna take a chance on this one getting.
That's very cool. Had you been married too before?
Yeah, once before.
There's a thing, isn't there, about the second time? I mean, obviously the first time is, if you can keep that going, that's spectacular. But you do come at it from a slightly different angle. You come at it with a kind of perspective that you go, I've got my eyes open in a weird way that you don't have first marriage, which is just, it's just all fun and crazy, romantic ideas.
Definitely. It was funny because, like I said, each of us were not looking at the time, and it just kind of happened. And the funniest part was, like, at the next club meeting, we were, at that point, after our first date, we were together, and that was it. That's just where it started, and it's been going ever since. But our friends were all, like, at the next meeting going, what, when did this happen? And we're like, about 2 weeks ago.
There's this thing called a life in between meetings.
I think it's just too adorable. And 14 years is quite an achievement as well. So I think you're in the long
14
run.
years married. November 4th will be 19 years together.
Wow, that's a lovely story. How are you both, really importantly?
Good. going through the same stress that everybody else is going through. Wishing this was over by now, but doing what we need to do to stay.
Are you
safe.
working?
I'm not right now, but Ariel is.
I'm a psychiatrist, and I work in hospital with adolescents. So it's just the easiest job in the world, of course. Coming back home drained much of the time.
And if anybody believes that, I got a bridge to sell you.
So, and the empathic shields go down. Hoo boy.
Yeah.
But
Terry,
again,
what do you normally do, Terry? I'm going to come back to you, Ariel, for definite, because I've got some questions.
Well, before this all hit, I was out of work for a little while because I was working at a cake shop, a custom cake shop. And unfortunately, I had to leave there because, of a traumatic experience. We got held up by gunpoint.
Oh, God.
And
who in their right mind robs a cake shop?
The stupid part about it is they robbed us on a Friday morning, and all the cakes get picked up Friday, afternoon to night, and then Saturday. So if they wanted the cash, it should have come Saturday afternoon. But there was nothing in the register because we had just opened. So it was really, these people were really right. So after that, I didn't go back to the cake shop.
Well, yes, of course. And do you look back and laugh at it, or is it still kind of, is it with you?
It's still with me a little bit. The first couple of months, it was very much with me. I wouldn't go out of the apartment. I wouldn't venture out by myself anywhere. And anywhere I did go, immediately I'm like, okay, where are my exits? Kind of a thing.
Are you familiar with guns? Are you familiar with weapons? Were you completely unfamiliar with them as things? And are you a gun person?
No, not at all.
That would be very frightening because those things just kill people, basically. It's what you
It took me a while to get to the point where I was like, okay, I'm ready to go back to work. And when that point came around and I started actively searching, all this hit. COVID hit. So
you know what? I think that might be a blessing in disguise, apart from the financial side, which obviously is going to be a problem.
We're very lucky. We're very lucky in that respect. Ariel's job is
good. It because I think that forced break is probably something you needed because I've never been held up at gunpoint. I've had a few other unusual things have happened to me over the years. Someone tried to kidnap me in my car.
Oh my God.
They were so incompetent. I mean, they were unbelievably poor at what they were doing that I wasn't remotely frightened. He took out a Swiss penknife, and sort of said, "Hey, you don't take me to an ATM, I'm gonna stab you with this." And I was like, "You're not gonna just stab that. That's not a stabby thing. That might just deflect off a rear." I mean, literally that. I was like, "Okay, I'll take you to a cash point," but I wasn't frightened. Mainly because this was just a poor. He's like one of the kids that Ariel deals with. They've got more problems than they have in their logic. So the logic wasn't with him. That yours in a whole different territory of traumatic because you have no control. I was driving the car.
Yeah.
I could have taken the car anywhere I wanted to. I could have driven it into a tree if I felt that threatened. It was just an incredibly incompetent thing to do. You never get in someone's passenger seat and try and hold them up with a pen. Right. Guns are a whole different order of magnitude in complexity.
Well, to put it more positive, I haven't done any lately because we haven't been able to get together with friends, but I still like to do cake decorating as a hobby.
Yeah.
So that's one of my creative outlets. Now you have amazing timing.
Oh,
perfect, Mel.
Yeah, I sent her a couple pictures of some of the cakes I've done over the years.
Oh, brother, that is so beautiful.
So our club that we belong to now, before all this hit, we would get together for poker nights. So I wanted to do
game days, and
poker so they're giant poker chips.
That's fantastic. That looks delicious. Oh, people are totally licking their lips right now. It's like,
with sesame seeds on it too.
Wow.
The TNG 25th anniversary.
How do you get that silver to look like foil?
There's some edible cake, like decorating powder out there in the different colors. So I got the silver and the gold, and you just either use a little vodka or lemon extract because it's high in alcohol content.
Yeah.
You get with a paste with it and just basically brush it on.
Wow. That's astonishing. How long would it take you to do something like that? Because that looks pretty involved.
I've gotten pretty good at the Delta Shield cake. I can do that one in like 4 or 5 hours, but with the additional con badge in the back, it probably took me another hour or so on top of that.
I'll put it this way too. Artists get in that zone, in that streak. I'm a frustrated musician. She does the cake decorating. I know the zone. sometimes she is so in the zone, I will actually leave the house and on several occasions have gone to a baseball game. I took the train and I went to go see baseball games. It's like, oh, the Phillies won. Okay. So,
Look at
how's
that.
the cake?
It's a Halloween cake.
Halloween cakes.
I love that cake.
What flavoring how do you choose that sort of stuff?
Yeah, there's buttercream frosting, and then I use fondant on top of the buttercream to do the decorations with.
God, look at that. That's a barbecue.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It was fun.
And
I haven't done it in a while.
I remember being a kid, I used to steal, when there was a party, a wedding or what have you, the thick fondant icing off the top of cakes.
You
I
actually
would just
like
grab
fondant?
that right away.
Most people don't like fondant.
Oh, I do. I don't like marzipan. I'm one of the few people who doesn't like marzipan. Yeah, I know. What's wrong with me? I know.
No, it's my friends, when I make a cake, they peel it off and they eat what the rest of it underneath. But a couple like it.
Oh
And
my
then for a
goodness.
friend of ours who we belong to, the Star Trek club I was telling you about earlier is international, Starfleet International.
Yeah.
And for a friend who was a regional lead, like what the regional, what's it called, honey?
Dave was actually president of the entire organization for several years.
Wow.
And he and his wife are from north of Toronto.
Event, and he's from Canada, so I decided to make him a Delta shield with a Canadian flag.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's really lovely. They're exquisite. Really lovely to see that presentation. And I'm very envious of your creativity in the kitchen. I guess you're all back to, you never skip a beat, do you? Because kids have problems all the time. They don't sort of go on holiday and go, wait, I'm going to stop having problems now.
The pandemic has aggravated admissions, but on the other hand, the other dilemma is that because of the pandemic, our bed count is cut in half because people need to be in their own rooms at this moment.
Of course, yeah.
And that's been back and forth at work. So, and I hate
that's really
finance.
Strange.
Yeah, and I hate talking about the finances, but that does put a crimp on financials, which again makes me feel really lucky, however stressful the job is, that our finances haven't really changed. Actually, they haven't changed, and I feel really lucky about that.
I'm really happy to hear that. At
the same time, the stress levels everywhere have gone up. I feel stuck at home and frustrated, and then you get a teenager with no breaks in the frontal lobe.
I was saying right at the beginning of all this, I do not blame young people for breaking rules, especially when it comes to this sort of thing for this sort of long. Because there's so many other things at play. There's a hormonal change. There's a need to have sex or not, or make some relationships. Or there are things that they have a real trouble putting a lid on because we're just wired not to. We're supposed to go and get out and do stuff. So I don't.
We are all supposed to, but then more.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you have much more expert on this than I am. I just remember myself when I was that young, and I wasn't a party animal. Mm-hmm. I needed to get out. Mm-hmm. I needed to, I needed to socialize. I needed to practice being charming. Or
I would have lost it without my theater and my music friends, or my friends in general.
In COVID, it must be difficult to work closely with the child and the parent, because I suspect that's normally how you'd have to do it on some level.
Oh, that's frustrating at all times, much of the time. I don't know if it's more than ever. Besides that, then you get the kids who are wards of the state, and there's a backup with trying to get them in the proper placements.
I think what you're doing is amazing. I mean, I think that all the support these kids can get from a person who is relatively objective, and it's just going to give them a shot at it, a shot.
Being a psychiatrist is basically being like a potions master,
right.
A potions professor at Hogwarts. You kind of do this mixed and you focus on the symptoms, and you got to think about the medical aspects as well as the other aspects, the social, the psychological,
of course.
Certainly the psychological. But honestly, if you boil it down, my job is relatively straightforward, but maybe it's also because I've been doing this for a while. So I think it may be routine.
Doing it for a while. And yes, you're a doctor, so you can actually prescribe medication, which
right.
I guess a normal psychiatrist can't.
Here's the difference.
Thank you. Help me.
A psychologist does not have medical training. They have a non-medical doctorate, a PsyD, an EDD, a PhD.
I mean, they're all still all parts of the puzzle. But yes, absolutely.
Yes, they're parts of the puzzle, exactly. I have the same training as your kid's pediatrician, as your surgeon. That is the foundation of my training, on top of having the neuroscience background from college. I have an MD, so psychiatrists have the MD or the DO,
Right.
at least in the United States and Canada. So
Yeah.
I am a true blue, genuine doctor type person that you played on TV once upon a time.
Yes, absolutely. I'm gonna. You might be interested. I'm gonna have a talk with my ex-wife, Nana. I don't know when it is. Next week sometime, I think. It's on another network, not part of Sid City. But we're gonna discuss a lot of things that you know a lot about. But one of the things that she's taken on is a neuroscientific approach to wellness, rather than. And
There's
it's
that.
got a name. I can't remember what it is, but it's in the mindfulness category, if that makes sense. It'd be interesting if you've got time and you're around for both you and Terry to come and visit. And you're all, everybody, by the way, everybody's welcome. It's going to be difficult, this conversation in places, because we're going to talk about very difficult things. Anyway, well, come along if you want to, and that applies to everybody. But
Thank you, Sid.
we think that some people are anxious and having trouble rising to the surface, and we think yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, absolutely. Well, we think one way is to share our anxiety, but how she emerged. We're hoping that people will take something positive from hearing us interrogate each other. And she will come right back at me, because we'll go right back to husband and wife mode, where we just don't really, no holds barred. We'll just discuss why our marriage went wrong, and what we thought we could have done, and what we should do, and what hope looks like. Anyway, we're going to try and do something we think is pretty original and discuss our dirty laundry in public. Which is really a bad idea. But nevertheless, we think there's an encouraging reason why we should. So it's not just some program or some thing, but it's not an entertainment. It is, but everything's an entertainment. We're hoping it's constructive. Thank you, both of you. Terry,
Thanks,
cake maker extraordinaire. Do you watch The Great British Bake Off?
Oh yeah,
Oh
definitely.
yeah, it's obligatory, isn't it?
Yeah, Ariel calls my cake shows cake porn.
Cake porn, it is.
Is
And Ariel, I'd love to talk to you so much more about your relationships with these children, and how you get through, and how you go to sleep, and all those things.
I can answer a couple of those questions briefly. How do I get through? Coming home to Terry, Sid chat, Starfleet chat, not wine lately. How do I get to sleep? A dash of Vistaril sometimes.
Okay. Thank you both very much.
Thank you, Sid.
Thanks,
Thank
Sid.
you, Mel.
Thanks to both of you, and happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Happy anniversary.
We are going to go over to Kevin and Zoe. I don't think they met at a Star Trek event, but I could be wrong.
No, we met at a comic book store, actually.
Hello, guys. It's really lovely to meet you.
Hello again. Sid, you might remember me as a guy who Mel sent you wine via at the Star Trek Con in 2013. So
That was you.
That was me.
I got so drunk. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Of course.
To do. Thank you. And you met at a comic store?
We did.
Sure did.
We did. I was doing, up until yesterday, I was told the show was canceled. By the way, our Tuesday show is now canceled. I've been doing the show for the past 6 years, every week, doing the top 5 comics at a local comic.
Oh, I bet people are fascinated by that. How did they find you?
They would find me on Facebook or, any of the social media. So now I'm going to have to reboot it as my own thing. I was doing it. We had 2 different phones. They had their local comic store phone, and I had my Comics Online phone. We do comicsonline.com. You know how Mel and company that go to the conventions and they do interviews with celebrities and such.
Yeah.
So Comics Online has been doing that, and that's how I met Mel years ago now. Gosh, probably.
Sorry to interrupt, but you know that we have illustrators in the club, and we have people who put their own comics together.
I didn't know that. That's fun. I only learned about this like yesterday, and I'm like, how could I have known Mel for so many years, like probably at least 12, and only have learned about this yesterday? And I was so thrilled to find out about not only this community, I didn't even realize what it was at all, but it's more.
Well, here we are, and
here you are.
welcome to to exploit it. And so, what I suggest you do, if you've lost your Tuesdays and this whole thing is getting wobbly, is to liaise with people on the site and come back a couple of times, meet the guys, because they all chat like crazy on the site here, and I don't have time.
I'm seeing it. Yeah,
we're seeing
exactly, and you'll have a bunch of people who'll come for your first thing, which you can Zoom and do it, recreate your own comic thing, and get everybody kind of start again in your own way. You probably did it in your own way before, but
yeah. So I'm looking for a couple of things. I'm looking for a new comic book store, ideally in Northern Virginia where we're at, but they could be anywhere in the world, I suppose.
We have a game store, but I don't think it's comics. I think it's that lovely guy from California, and I don't know if he does comics. Does anybody remember if that guy has comics in his book?
Kizan, Cards and Games, I believe.
Upstate New York. That's right. Upstate New York.
Upstate New York, no comics. It's just game store.
It's just games. Okay.
We love games too, though.
Yeah, we definitely do. We're big gamers.
You'll find a niche here. You'll find a group
of people. Just wonderful. But then and then we're going to reboot the regular podcast as well, which is in fact this Friday is Comics Online's 20th anniversary. We've been doing it for a little while now.
Wow.
So I thought, hey, I'll talk to Mel and see if I can come on this show and say, hey, we're having an anniversry. And
that's a really good idea. There are plenty of people here and on the discourse who are so in love with what you do already.
Well, and we're in love with what you do. Oh yes, that's one thing. See, as much as we didn't meet at a Star Trek convention, when he told me he was a Trekkie, I was like, okay. All right.
Okay. He's weird enough for me.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, he met a comic book shop and he loves Star Trek too, and X-Files. So I mean, maybe he's the one. As much as you guys are talking about education, like I work with severe special needs, and I also do behavior therapy. So I mean, we're kind of all on the same
my question.
Well, was it?
That was going to be my question. What's your thing?
Okay, I went through nebula, and I've got this power where I can just read your mind.
You're not kidding. You're not kidding. I'll tell you what, incredible qualifications to do that sort of work. You don't walk in off the street for that kind of work.
No. I got into it actually my senior year. I was half senior, half off, and my mother is a retired special needs teacher. So that's how I got into it. And she was like, come in and help me. I was like, I can't help you. I can't do what you do. And she goes, come on, I'll give you $20. 16 years later, it's my passion. I love it. It's a lot of fun.
How has it been during COVID? I mean, you just heard Ariel say that, he's lost half his bed.
It is. It's hard. I'd have to say one of the hardest parts is, the school I work at, all the kids have IEPs, if anyone knows those individualized education programs. A lot of the ways that we intervene with behaviors include like go for a walk. Let's talk. Come over here and color this coloring page with me. Let's listen to music. Here's my earbud. Just listen to this with me. Come over here real close. I'll do the work with you if it's frustrating. And it takes away a lot of the tools. So it's been a lot of, how do I come back? How do I get these kids to get different tools in their tool belt during COVID? When I say tools in their tool belt, I'm saying ways to manage their different behaviors or their anxieties or things of that nature.
So how does it work? Who gets inducted?
Well, in the county, each general education school has a classroom or two for autism or special needs or...
so they're part of the regular school?
No. So let's say those kids are too tough for those classrooms, like their behaviors are too much.
Yeah.
They send them to us and I get a classroom of them.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Right.
But from all the stories I'm hearing, especially during COVID right now, is that often parents have special needs. And it's incredibly hard when the parent themselves has some neural deviation that makes life very difficult for them to know how to deal with their children properly. But the state expects them to be a good mom. And that's incredibly difficult when you don't know.
They don't have their support.
The norms, the culture. Yes, exactly. I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to offend them, and they're still moms. But
it is. You're absolutely right. It's tough. Everyone's learning. Everyone's growing.
It's been fun. It's been a learning experience for everybody.
Well, you've got that lovely smile on both your faces, so you must be doing something right. So, Kevin, how are you going to earn money? What's the deal there?
Well, when it comes to Comics Online, I earn no money. Other outlets that we know can attest that, well, once in a while you earn a little bit of money, but does it really even pay for your hosting? Maybe
McDonald's.
Yeah.
Maybe. Certainly not going to pay for you to go out to San Diego for Comic-Con every year, which is what we do. It's what we enjoy. So I have a real job. Not that that's not a real job, but it's a passion project.
Yeah.
I got another job just very recently, and so
that's good.
Yeah, so far so good.
Yeah, well, cross fingers for you. Oh, I had a question that I was burning to ask you, and it's just completely flown out of my head. This happens all the time. I'll tell you this, by the way. I'm like such a bimbo. Okay.
It was what do I do there? IT stuff.
No, okay. I hope you get lots of excitement from the new your improvised comic online situation, whatever you're going to call it. I don't know if it's the same. You're calling it the same thing.
Oh yeah, well, as far as we do everything geek pop culture. We do reviews and interviews just as the normal website sort of thing, as so many of these outlets do.
Yeah.
But as far as a weekly show, we're putting together 2 new ones.
When did you first go to Comic-Con?
It was 1984. So this year would have been my 36th in a row.
Wow. But when I went, it was just comics. There were no TV shows. There were no TV actors. I was invited. I don't know why. I guess because, there was a Deep Space Nine comic, and we were promoting that. So no one had any idea about who I was. They were like,
really?
We're here for comics, man. Actors, you can take another place. There must be another room for you guys. But I liked it. I liked the fact that it was so specialist. And then suddenly it just exploded and became this Disney of actor extravaganza with every show lining up all their actors so that everybody can see them and promoting new movies, which is kind of away from the spirit of the thing, I think, personally. But hey,
not wrong.
Well, we've loved it, and we've, like I say, not only made friends with other folks working on their own outlets, like Mel and her whole staff, who are the best. I don't know where she finds them. She finds just the best people. They are amazing.
Really nice.
But we end up making friends with the industry folks as well, which is really cool.
I love the fact that there's a lot of friend making going on. To me,
that's the biggest deal.
Yeah.
That's what we've missed out on. And not only did we miss the entirety of Comic-Con this year, but last year Mel wasn't even there. 2020 is going to be it for us. We're going to just have the best time ever.
Is it a shame that it's kind of been swamped by TV and movie, or has it enhanced it?
For me, it's enhanced it. I know there are certainly a lot of people who are comic book purists. Now, I've been a comic book fan since I was a kid.
No, wait.
I
Give
have
him
like
context.
20,000 comics.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So I'm not. It's not like I'm spending hundreds of dollars a week on new comics, and so it's not like I'm out of that picture. It's just that hey. Sure, we like to go and talk to those creators as well, but we also like to talk to the television and movie and game creators. Honestly, if the publicists for the comic books were on it more, we would do more comic book interviews. Unfortunately, a lot of these creators are kind of left in the wind and left to do their own publicity. And so, sure, we're going to go and walk the floors and see who we can find, but we don't necessarily set up interviews in advance for a lot of them unless they're kind of high profile, in which case those slots get filled up really fast.
Well, I know for a fact that we have one comic book collector in the club. mean, that I've talked to, like serious one. I'm sure if they're around today, they will say, "It was me. I was the guy." So there may be a possible interview to actually talk to an avid collector who's willing to drop enormous amounts of money on comics. But I'm really, really happy that you came, and come again, because I think you'll find a very few really kindred spirits who will happily make you smile.
I think you're right, and it's great to see you again. And by the way, we're currently marathoning for the first time from beginning to end Deep Space Nine, and we're right in the middle of season 5 and just loving every minute of it.
Wow, that's great. My wife watched. My wife, thank you. My wife watched an episode. She swears she hasn't seen it. Well, I think she has secretly seen stuff. But the one she saw, I'm in every single Star Trek episode except for one. And that was the one she saw. And she was like, I didn't even see you. I'm Star Trek Deep Space Nine, that is. You're both lovely. Thanks for coming on, Zoe, Kevin.
Thanks for having us.
Come on through any old time. We'd love to see you again.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll be back.
Thanks.
Bye, guys. It was good to see you.
I forgot to say, Kevin, that we do have a tradition of show and tell. So if you've got some cool comics and stuff that you can show us one of these. I can't say the same for you, Zoe. We don't really want to see.
I like video games. So I actually have a huge video game collection. I have a lot of the retro systems and a lot of interesting games, but, you know, like in a huge, way too big collection of Fallout.
You're playing Fallout currently? Still?
I'm playing Avengers, the brand new Avengers game. We just finished Last of Us 2.
That was so good.
But yeah, we go back to Fallout all the time.
Oh yeah. Fallout's a staple for us.
I'm on Destiny 2. I don't normally do the shoot 'em ups, but I'm having a go at Destiny 2. I'm normally the MMORP guy.
I miss the times where you could just like over encumber and walk for 45 minutes back to your crate, you know? Bring that back and I'd be fine.
Lovely to meet you both. I'm going to get to someone else before they shut me down here.
Oh, okay.
There's no they, by the way. Mel.
I'm nice. Our last victim for tonight is another Kevin, Kev James.
Kevin. Kev.
Oh, we have all these Kevins here tonight, and I'm from Australia, so I should say, g'day, mate. Put another shrimp on the barbie.
G'day.
And
nice.
I'm a Monty Python fan too.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're so brilliant, aren't they? I mean, they were whatever, but then my goodness, Kev, when's the first day of spring for you?
I believe someone posted another chap from Australia, but my memory tells me it was about 2 weeks ago. It may have actually been the 1st of September, but
okay, great.
For some reason, the 4th of September. The 4th of September's in my head because I think that was a Sunday or a Monday.
Okay, so that makes sense because we just didn't know, and I didn't know there was any Aussies here. I know there's some New Zealanders, and they probably put it up because they kind of have the same. So everyone has pretty much the same calendar. Whereabouts in Australia are you, my friend?
I'm in Brisbane on the east coast. We're the 3rd most populous city in Australia, about 2.4 million. We're the capital of the state of Queensland. I'm an hour's drive from Tom Hanks. He's filming a movie down the Gold Coast.
Oh yes, that's right. He famously got COVID early doors, didn't he? When
exactly right. Yes, he suffered from COVID early on.
How is everybody?
Everyone's good here. We're in isolation in one particular state. We have what we call stage 4, but in Queensland, we're very safe and our government's looked after us. However, businesses are shutting down and there's a lot of angst and debate depending upon whether you're left or right and in the middle of politics. And
I know, we try and avoid all that.
But we're all doing well here. It's just the mental health thing. And I know you mentioned your judge before, Ginsburg, and it reminded me of the elderly who are also suffering in all countries who are in aged care. Yeah. That's something I do as a hobby or as a vocation voluntarily. I talk to people in aged care, and unfortunately we can't see them at the moment because of the lockdown. The lockdowns have affected our ability to care for our old, but it also affects their mental health. So it's a difficult subject.
Absolutely. And so many people passing away alone. I mean, there are some very sad things about what's happening. I mean, there's a million sad things, but I think one of the most acutely sad things is how a really vulnerable part of us are older people. I mean, very late in life, are so alone right now because they just rely on the friendly gesture, the touch of another human being, and they're totally deprived of it. So I
so
think
right.
you do a wonderful thing by at least getting on the blower with some of these people and saying, "Are you okay?" Do you try and explain Zoom and are there many computers around, and because maybe seeing each other is helpful.
It's very important to see them and have that physical touch, because therapeutic touch with permission is something we talk to all of our fellas about, because a lot of the guys I talk to are in their 90s, the greatest generation. I'm a boomer, just like you. I've got about a year seniority. I'm a 1963 model, but a lot of our fellas are the greatest generation, and they survived the Depression years, and they're very stoic. But therapeutic touch is so important, and talking and validating and just reminiscing about the times they had. They're very, very resilient people, this older generation.
He understood the war in a way that nobody alive does. I mean, they understood what the world went to war. We owe them a good deal more than merely being ignored during a pandemic. So it's a wonderful thing that you're doing that, because we've got some lovely. I consider myself one of the older people too. We've got quite a nice bunch of older people, and we've got a lovely bunch of young people too here. So it's a really good mix. How did you find out about us, Kev?
I'm on Facebook, obviously, and I think I saw something on Facebook, and then I Googled and watched an old episode from a month ago, and then last night. It's about midday here at the moment, I think. And last night, about 2 a.m, I actually watched the first episode of you and Andrew Robinson in your script read-through. I'm blown away. I closed my eyes and I could just see you guys in uniform, and it just brought such a smile to my face. It's just fantastic to be able to feel all those positive vibes you two guys giving out. My wife, I'll shout out to my wife. Hello, Diane. How are you? She loves watching Star Trek with me, but I'm the Star Trek nut.
Okay, fantastic. And is Diane watching this from somewhere? Was she seeing you?
I wish she could, but she's one of these heroic nurses working in a hospital. So I'm at home. I'm somewhat disabled or stuck at home 7 days a week. I've been in isolation for about 12 months with my injury, and she in a hospital and is doing a great job, as are your other people who you spoke to tonight.
We have lots of us.
Your psychiatrist, who's not a psychologist.
But it goes all the way, Kev. It's the people who write stories that make people laugh, and the people who entertain, and it's all making difference. And although we can't be grateful enough to both you and your wife for looking after segments of us in a profound way, everybody here is pulling their weight, which is pretty great. And what do you do to make yourself giggle?
Oh, okay. Like any self-respecting person, to make myself laugh, I'll watch funny cat videos on YouTube. Or I'll watch the bits that people smarter than me have done, where they edit together all the funny parts of you and Dr. Bashir and Garrett, funny bits, all the interplay. Or my favourite would be Odo versus Cork. And when they really love it. They secretly love each other. We all know this.
Absolutely. Are you a sports fan? Do you like that kind of thing? Do you watch those sort of things as well? Or because being an Australian, sort of your duty to be a sports fan normally.
Absolutely. Well, sun, surf and sport. Notice I didn't say the other one. And actually, I'm a tennis fan, so I'm a Roger Federer fan. But obviously in Australia, we have our rugby league. We have our Australian football.
Yeah, I've been watching a bit of Aussie rules, and it's just crazy violent. I mean, you are allowed to elbow people in the face, which seems odd to me.
It's a very physical sport, and
that is an understatement, Kev.
Some of these guys who play Australian football, it's an elbow to the neck, and they can jump about 20 feet in the air to catch the ball. I'm sure they're part kangaroo.
But you don't like cricket. I've yet to, I mean, I found one person in Blighty in England on our social club who's a cricket fan, and so far I've lucked out in terms of finding any Aussies who love cricket.
I like cricket. I'm a cricket fan, and I used to watch it every summer. We're just entering spring here now, so our summer cricket will start
any minute.
December coming up, and
we're all jealous. You're starting summer and we're losing it. Yeah. Although it's pretty hot where you are when it gets going.
Oh, it is. We're in the tropical part, being in Queensland on the eastern coast. We're not farther up north in the tropical areas, if you know where the rainforests are.
I was at Cairns once, which is, I think, the tropical area. I stayed at an island called Lizard Island, and that was the only time I scuba dived and saw the Great Barrier Reef. And I was amazed at what I saw down there. It was just beautiful. I'm really hoping it isn't dying as quickly as they're saying it is. I suspect it probably is. If for no other reason, to save the barrier reef would be a wonderful thing, to do something about climate change.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful thing, the barrier reef. And while I haven't been fortunate to see it up as far north, I've been to the southern end many years ago when I was physically able to do it. And I'm so glad I did. It's just so visually amazing.
Isn't it amazing? Technicolor, all these crazy fish and shells the size, you know, of my arms, a basket-sized shells, and moray eels and all sorts I saw just from the scuba. I mean, not from the scuba, snorkel. I didn't even do the scuba diving. I just put a snorkel on my thing. Snorkeling is you need to practice snorkeling, because I get excited, see something shiny, and go down and still keep breathing.
Yes, you go down and you forget that you've got to take.
It doesn't work. Yeah, exactly.
The next minute you've swallowed a litre of water. I remember that.
I should put like a really long hose pipe on the end of my snorkel and leave someone in the boat above to let me just keep going down and they can hold on to it. Well,
you'd think most Australians could swim from birth. You'd think with our climate you'd be able to swim from birth. Chuck them in at the deep end and away they go.
Absolutely. How's your family? How's your wife? How is everybody around? Because obviously she's at work on deep shifts. But is there anybody else in the house?
Big shout out. Thank you for the opportunity. I have a stepson, 2 stepsons, 5 grandchildren, and our oldest grandchild has just got her driver's license. She's 16.
Oh, brother.
She's wonderful though, and she's working now, and we're really proud of her. So well done.
Good.
We've been isolated, sadly, because
you haven't seen them,
and we've only seen them probably twice this year, just recently. And of course, kids hate being cooped up inside.
Oh, I know. And I know. It's just not fair.
I'll have to get them to watch the Star Trek cartoon, because when I mention Star Trek, they go, "What's that?" And I go, "Oh, you're too young. I'll introduce you to Star Trek one day." But
is the Star Trek cartoon, have you seen it? Is it fun?
I've seen the first episode on YouTube, which they provided for free, I believe, for a certain period of time. And of course, people who dislike, I'm one of these people who says any Star Trek is better than no Star Trek. I love it. I watch Star Trek, documentaries, and YouTube near the TV.
I buy that. I love documentaries, especially history. I used to love the History Channel until it stopped being a History Channel.
We like our David Attenborough and nature. Beautiful.
I love David Attenborough.
I'm an amateur photographer, so I go walking in the bush and I can be miles from the nearest human, sit on a log, listen to a creek, take some photos. That's my
jealous.
My mindfulness.
You are such a lucky person to be able to do that in such a beautiful country. Well, I recommend everybody to watch, if they can get to it without spending money, and that's a show called Planet Earth with David Attenborough. That's a recent one. He's done loads. And in fact, you should go all the way back to his early career, when he climbed around in the forests of, I think it was somewhere in South Africa, with these mountain gorillas. And he was trying to sit very close, and they were right there, and he was making friends with one. He's quite an astonishing nature commentator. He's probably a kind of honorary scientist too by now.
We love him. He's an icon. He's an icon of the world. We love him over here.
For me, he's bigger than the Queen, and that's a big thing to say for a Brit.
Indeed.
Listen, Kev, it's been such a pleasure getting to know you. Same goes for everyone who's talked tonight. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself.
No, you're a wonderful advocate and for mental health and for connection. And I say hi to everybody. And just like Schwarzenegger, I'll be back.
Good. We'll love you back, Kev.
Thank you.